I have a question, Jez.
Okay, go on, Joe.
How are you at this stage of the season?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Thank you to our four sponsors for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Art Caterers and Milltown Pies, Alexander Grace Law, Jez and Lisa's Spoonful of Sweets, and SPE Furnishings. Links to their websites are available in the show notes and on our website. Don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest episodes as soon as they're released.
Old, tired.
I mean, you only had one ankle, so I'm
weary. I've just looked at my figures haven't been outrageous up to here. And I know I got less than 5 wickets in the league, but I've got a few in the cup there. 6 overs, none for 13 is not bad.
No, I was going to say your cup stats were really good for that year, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, let's leave it at that. So then we move on to, when I can get this back, semi-final, 27th of June, Enfield, again at home. See, I always thought that game was away. What is wrong with me? So we've won the toss and we've decided to field. Crikey, I remember this game. I can't remember the others, but I remember Peterson completely smashing us everywhere.
Did we play every game at home that year?
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah.
Go
on, Joe Martin.
What was the build-up like to this game? Bear in mind that 2 years previous at church, things didn't go quite to plan.
Yeah.
Was there anything different this time around? Or, I mean, you'd certainly say that you probably had a better team, maybe. I don't know. But what was different? Or wasn't there anything?
Well, I'll start it off, Joe. I think we had a better all-round team. I think, Peter was such a great, fit for us as the way he bowled for us and then also battered for us. I don't think we were carrying anyone, which, in a couple of years before we maybe did carry the odd one. I'd like Joe Beneducci to comment on this, whether the captain and his vice and or the club had any input. I remember thinking, being really, not negative, but I'm not looking forward to, I don't want to think of what could happen here. I was very switched off from where that first, in 2002, I was all over it. I was convinced we were going to win it. I was convinced we were going to win the cup and I'd be carried around on everyone's shoulders all around Rose Grove and I could finish them with 2 ankles, but it wasn't to be. Dooch, can you remember, we didn't have any fancy let's go for breakfast and stop in hotels the night before like this lot do now these days?
No, there was none of that. I think it was fairly low-key and I think probably 2002 did probably play a little part in that, probably just tempered his enthusiasm a little bit. I don't remember there being anything special in the build-up to that game.
No.
Blez?
No, I think, can you remember Blez?
Yeah, I can. I can't remember being massively anything much different. Well, obviously, the biggest thing was, I think if we'd have had 300 against us in 2002, which we nearly did, but we went at it all wrong. And I think the experience of that 2002 put us in a slightly better stead, that we weren't as inexperienced. And I just remember saying both semi-final and final, let's be in it with 20 overs gone. Let's not lose it. Because we lost that 2002 semi-final in the first 5 overs trying to match their score. And we'd just thrown it away by being too adventurous too early.
Yeah, too inexperienced, Blez. You're perfectly right there. And that's what modern cricket's about, is if you're still in there, you can score at a phenomenal rate. But if you're 7 or 8 down, then you've no chance. Peter, can you remember the build-up to it, first of all, and then before we talk through the actual game, can you remember anything significant?
No, I don't really remember too much significant. I think I sort of probably noticed. I think people were probably as the couple of guys have just said, it was almost like tried to play it down a little bit, and that I guess probably is because of what had happened 2 years before. So it sort of had that feel about it, like it's a semi-final, but almost like a bit pessimistic. Like, let's not get too excited because we don't want to go sort of getting your hopes up, so to speak. So yeah, I sort of remember it had that sort of feel to it, and then I don't. As far as the game, I mean, obviously I remember everyone getting belted all around the park. By Alvaro Peterson. But then also, probably to follow on from what Blez said, still not feeling like, this is just going to be an impossible chase. Because I think from memory, it was a really good wicket that day, and I always felt that season for playing there on that ground that if it was a good wicket and there was a little bit of bounce in it, then obviously that shorter boundary at the top end was always played a big factor if you sort of felt like you could hit through the line of the ball. So but still to chase that down the way that we did was it was one of those games that's why you remember it for that sort of last 10 overs of the run chase, I guess.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, really, when you're looking at the scorecard now. Can we just go through, really? Joe Martin, you won't remember that. Do you know if you were there watching? No,
I was tallying. I can remember
it. You remember the game? Good lad.
Yeah, I can remember the game. I might be in the gun a little bit, but Joe Martin hit the winning run. Yeah, that's true. He also took a very important wicket as well, as he is a key figure. Yeah, he's kind of happening. I can remember it. I was trying to do my dream.
Yeah, you were being
very
efficient.
Hard to say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Gary, you remember it or not? You.
Oh yeah, I mean, players might have been playing it all down and stuff like that, but I was looking forward to it right from the Con game. Super excited. All that week leading up, it were how early we're going to get into Stella Corner. Who's going to be runners to the bar. Who's bringing food. And I think the day before, didn't we have there was a mental game. Somebody like, it might have been Aslan, and it was like a 35 over game or something, and both sides got 200 plus, and I think we squeaked home that day, and that just like made it even that 24 hours before then everyone were on a real high, I think, going into the semi, and then when they rack up 300, you sort of think, oh, hang on a bit. But like you say, I were well excited about it. I were playing it down at all.
Blez 100 the day before, Jez.
Yeah, just got that up now. Little trip 70 and Blez 100, and we've got in a 30 over game that as well.
30.
30 over game, 218 for us.
It's a great podcast, can I add?
Yeah, well done. Right, Dooch, I'm going to come to you now. Before we just see what Charlie and Blez's thoughts are around that. We did this quite a lot on that 2004 podcast, because as Joe's mentioned, you took a great, I think you took, a good wicket, stumped Andy Barker by Charlie, and you've hit the winning runs, but you've still gone for 10.83, so you did have to make up really from your bowling figures, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got Peterson out, and Andy Barker out, and then some.
That's right. Yeah,
just kept whacking me into park like repeatedly, just like 6 after 6 after 6.
Yeah. I do. We have had that story before, and I couldn't remember. I mean, it's got to be that R.W. Green.
Rob Green, that's right. Yeah, Rob Green. I think he had a great career.
Yeah, he did. He got 24 that game. Hit 3 sixes. He got 38 in his career. 38 runs. So they've got this 310. Blez, you're right. Let's keep in the game. Let's do things as we can. I must admit, I didn't think we'd get near it, but that was the pessimistic me at that time. Finchy's got 30 odd trips out really early. Peter's come in, LBW as well, which, I'm not just saying it, Pete. Pros, are less likely to get given at LBW in league cricket, certainly in cup games. Can you remember that with your Stoners?
I can't really remember
no.
whether. Yeah, I just remember. I remember when you're chasing a big score like that. Like, I guess when you're other pro, you sort of think, well, if we're going to chase 310, then I'm probably going to have to get a big score. So like I said, I can remember when I got out, sort of thinking, this is this is difficult. This could be tough now. But I think that was the strength of the team, is that we did have a lot of batting. And that's the way it played out. But I do remember thinking when I got out, well, that might be it might be a bit tough.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult from there, isn't it? Blez, can you remember? Obviously, Fulton was out the LBW there, and Charlie's come in. I know it's a difficult task, this, Blez, because we don't have balls faced on here. Can you remember what sort of run rate we were looking at that stage when Charlie first came in?
I think, we'd scored at a pretty reasonable lick. So even though Pete was out, we were still nearly 100. So you still got 200 to go. But I think we mentioned it before. Fairly early on, we'd realised that they were bowling all their.
That's right.
Their bowlers, and we only reckoned they had 4, true bowlers, and Alviro's a good pro, but bowling was definitely his weaker string to his bow. So I think early on in mine and Charlie's partnership, we just said let's just wait, because they're going to have to bring somebody back on, or they're going to have to bring somebody on, and when they do, we just have to go hell for leather for it, and just take our chance. Then just stick in, play it around a little bit. Don't get too far behind the run rate, and like I said, be in there after 25 overs, and then see what they're going to do, and that's how it sort of like that's how it panned out. But obviously, again, as we said in the previous thing, we did bat really well. We took their 6 bowler down.
Yeah,
and the pair of us got out, even though we'd done well. We got out. We still 50 or so needed. So we still had one then.
No, 200. I'm obviously looking at this as stats. It's not memory. 155 the pair as you put on, and it was very built up. And then, like you said, start smashing that 5th, 6th bowler. Charlie, have you got good memories? Well, you obviously got good memories about it. Have you any? Quite clear memories about that, going out to bat with him, with the legend that is Blez?
Yeah, I remember the game pretty well. I actually remember the build-up to that game different to other people.
Right.
I seem to remember us having a little bit of hope. We knew we had a good side. We knew we had a good cup side. We had 5, 6 bowlers. And I seem to remember conversations with Joe, because Beneducci, we used to go out quite a lot at that point, and we used to talk about it a lot. And I seem to remember us being reasonably confident that we were going to do all right. Not after we'd scored 300. I don't think we were quite thinking the same, but I seem to think we were more optimistic anyway than we were a couple of years before when we got beat at Church, was it? And
it was,
and that hurt at Church, as you know that, and anyone. The proper Lowerhouses who played in that game and played a couple of years later on were, we wanted to win that game against, and Enfield, and I think we had a little bit of confidence going into it, and it was a good track, like Fulton said.
Yeah.
They scored 300, but again, I was keeping on it early on, and it was true, and it was coming through pretty straight. There wasn't much going on sideways, which, like I said earlier, helped me in terms of going out to bat. Because it gives you that little bit of confidence to maybe play through the line a little bit. And I joked earlier about batting with Blez and him running me out, but every time you go into bat with Blez, you feel confident that he's going to know what to do, and he's going to give you a few tips here and there. And we did talk about pushing that, because Blez was fit now, but he was fit back then as well, so he ran well. And I remember us running and ragged, to be fair, and then like Blez, when some of the maybe not top bowlers came on, Blez took them to the cleaners, and it was an absolute joy. Always is batting with Blez, but I remember that game, and obviously the game later. I remember it pretty well, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I mean, and there's, like you said, then that is fantastic, Charles, that you can give that insight into, lots of people have batted with Blez, professionals and other amateurs that have had the, good partnerships. But when you two, I know it's these 2 innings, this one and the final, but when it clicked, it wasn't a case of taking risks when you're running. You were working the ball into the right places and understanding the pair of you, which, when you can push for that 2 or that 3, when you think back, Stan's here, it was, a comfortable 2 turned into a quick single, where for you two, it was, a difficult 2, you'd turn into a 3 because you'd confuse the field. So, no, it's great that you say that, Charlie, and it's a credit to Blez that, the way that you two battered together then. So with 250, who was out first then? I'm assuming you, Charlie.
Me, yeah.
Yeah. So have you any idea how many you were then, Blez, when Charlie was out? Had you got the ton? You're on mute.
On mute, Blez.
Still on mute.
Got the title for this episode sorted out, haven't we? You're on mute, Blez.
I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep myself. I think I was nearly 100, so I wouldn't be surprised if either I was the next wicket out or very soon after that the 7th wicket.
Yeah, because we were 250 for 4 and then 252 for 4.
Because I didn't bat that long with Benbow, and I certainly didn't bat with your Matt. So I was either straight out after Charlie or
that was looks like your 5th bowler that we were trying to go after, Blez.
Yeah, trying to smash it.
Bang bang.
I think we've had this conversation. You've talked us through it before, Duke. So there was a lot of nerves going on then, but there were a few overs left, if I remember.
Yeah, there were quite a bit of time left at that stage. We didn't need 10 and over then.
No, and I think Matt's got out swinging from his arse, and Benbow's looking like he's batting quite well. And then you've batted, exceptionally well, and Ben on his debut in the Worsley Cup's come in. Again, I know you've done it before for us, Duke, but just give us a couple of minutes of what that were like, that last 5 or 6 overs.
The clearest memory I've got is when they brought Keith Barker back on from the clubhouse end. Keith obviously has gone on to have a very good professional career, and I've spoke to Mas Ahmed about this a few times since, and it was Andy who wanted to bring Keith on to try and nip a wicket out, and Mas was dead against it, and Andy persuaded him to bring Keith on, and unfortunately he just kept bowling it right in the only area that I could get him away, and that over really turned it. I can't remember how many we got, but we certainly got double figures. I think there was 2 overs left after that, and that really sort of pulled it back in our direction, really.
Yeah. No, and it was so tight. There's only 3 or 4 balls left, and and we've won, and we celebrated. I remember I was, having a great celebration and looking forward to what was going to happen.
Jez, you'd have had your pads on. You'd have had your pads on at that stage. What were you thinking? I
probably wouldn't have, Joe.
No,
I don't think so. I would have probably given up by then. The way I batted. What did I do? Get 4 wickets and 3 runs that year, something like that in the league.
You wouldn't have let Sid bat in front of you, Jez?
No, I wouldn't. Definitely not. No, I'd have gone out and done my best. Certainly running with Duke.
You get 4 runs that year. That weren't a joke either, was it? You got 4 runs in the league.
Yeah. All right. It's been brought up a few times before.
You played 19 games.
So, to the final.
Why did you retire, Jez? Why did you retire?
And his highest score was 3 as well.
We should have a full episode on that year, because I do have a few comebacks, but it's just not for now. Let's savour the victories. Savour the occasion. I couldn't bat for a few years before that, dude. The moment had gone. I still thought I could bowl a little bit more than I got bowled by the vice captain, the captain. But that's for another episode. So I can't remember. So it's August the 8th. So it's quite a way after the semi-final. Do we need to look at the build up to the games? Anyone? Can we remember any of them? The build up to the final.
I tell you, there's one thing, Jez, that I remember. It's the interleague knockout.
Oh, was that in between?
Brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up.
And I remember we played a game, and it must have been the first game of that. And I think it was probably before the semi-final, I think. But
it was.
We played this game, and we maybe chased, let's say 200, maybe 220, something like that. And I remember hitting the winning runs, and I remember coming off and thought, this will be coming the sheds, and everyone will be, pretty pleased. And I remember walking in the sheds, and everyone was just sitting there, just on us. Down. I was thinking, what's going on here? Obviously, I hadn't looked ahead to look at the draw, but I think that meant that we had to play another game on maybe on a bank holiday Monday, so we had to play Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah, walk into the change rooms after hitting the winning runs, and everyone was just devastated because it meant we had to play another game. And I think from memory, the next game we played, wherever we played, it was about 35 degrees, bank holiday Monday. I think all the senior players in the team said, "Oh no, we're unavailable that day."
Not all of the senior players said that.
We went and played away with a pretty inexperienced team and got absolutely plastered all around the ground in 35 degrees. And so yeah, fair to say, not all the cup competitions that year were fiercely fought over. I think probably fair to say.
That's a great memory.
Blez,
what happened in that game?
Do you remember anything about that game that he's on about where we got beat? Do you remember anything?
Where was it at?
Is it Haywood?
Was it Haywood?
Oh,
Haywood away.
I got 4 wickets. Is that what you mean, Joe?
No. What happened in the second innings, right at the very start of the second innings?
For some unknown reason, I opened the batting. The first ball, I defended stoutly. The second ball, I left even more stoutly. Raised my hands, and the wicketkeeper rolled the ball onto the stumps, and I was summarily run out for none because I didn't want to put my foot on the painted line, so I batted outside the crease.
The painted line was wet, and you didn't want to stand on it
to get your boots muddy. and we got beat by 168. Oh, Fultz, I bet, and you got the wrath for that for getting us through the Wolsden game. It looks like you got 70 odd against Wolsden.
Yeah, I remember Matt. I don't think Matt was like, "No, I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that cup competition." It's rubbish. Yeah. No, it was a little bit deflating to walk off. And you're going to be slapped on the
back in the day, though, Fultz, to put a bit of context to that, we couldn't get anywhere past like the semi-final because they'd put how the fixtures worked. They'd always put fixtures on a Sunday, which would be our game day. Most leagues were Saturdays, so we were like, it was almost a pointless competition, wasn't it?
Had to forfeit it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Blez, you took 4 wickets as the 7th bowler.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous the competition was.
That's my bowling career for you.
Exactly, Jez. That should be the comment for all these types of competitions that are ludicrous.
Can you see that Matt didn't bowl during that game?
Yeah.
And do you know why? He'd been Elmy's best man. He got a pair of brogues that Elmy had bought him for his duties, and they creased him, and he had sort of massive blisters on the backs of his heels.
Too much dancing. So we move on. The draw's been made for who's going to play at home, and I get the impression, again, help me out, lads, if I've got it wrong, but we know for probably 3 or 4 weeks before that we've got the luxury of being able to host the final. And it's worth talking a little bit about, Frank and the other helpers as to how they built it up and now we've got the different tents and gazebos and everything else there. And I must admit, like you've all pointed out, I was at the twilight of my career, but that was a real tingle walking onto the ground there and seeing the fans that were already there at 11:30 and everything else. Fultz, what were your, I know you've seen our fans, you've seen the Burnley games and everything, but that was quite special, even for someone who's played as many tests as you have. Is that right in saying?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you just don't see, you certainly don't see crowds like that at a game of club cricket in New Zealand. And to be honest, you sort of, until I actually could see it, almost had to see it to believe it, because in the build up you sort of hear everyone's like, there's going to be a big crowd, there's going to be a lot of people there, and you sort of think, there'll be a few people there, but to actually see it, and everyone was jammed in right on the edge of the boundary the whole way around the ground. Like I said,
it was phenomenal.
Really amazing to see, and just like I said, I guess as someone who wasn't obviously sort of from the area, just definitely made you aware of how much it meant, and to people like like I said, like Frank and that, who just
it put so
really
much
cool,
in.
Really cool to see.
Dooch, at the time, again, my memory's a little bit blurred about it, and I wasn't involved with Matt. I didn't try and push Matt to how we should do things or anything. I was quite laid back and cool about that, and was okay. Do you think that was the feel of you as the the captain, the leader group, or were I misunderstanding it?
I'm not sure, Jez. I do remember this time we did do a little bit more in terms of. I think Matt had us down for a team meeting during the week from memory. Which we'd never done before.
No.
We never ever had a team. We never had a team meet.
No.
And then obviously on the game day, we didn't go for breakfast, but we were all at the ground. For probably 10:30, which again was massively out of step with what we would normally do. But I can't remember. I can't remember feeling nervous or calm or what. I just
It might just be my recollection. I just felt quite calm about it. What's going to happen is going to happen. I think we're in a good place. I think we're playing quite well with the best side we could have out. Gary, did you come up? Were you watching that game? Were you in one of them tents? Yeah, I thought you might be. How was that on the build-up before it started?
I was still in one of them tents, Jez, at R5 on the Monday morning. as Fran reminded me, actually, at tea tonight.
Right.
I sort of woke up in a blur with my phone going and saying, "Where are you?" I said, "I don't know." So unzipped the gazebo. And I said, "Oh, right, I'm still in the gazebo." She said, "Don't move, I'm sending a taxi." So
brilliant.
I definitely remember that bit. No, again, it was, I think after the semi and one or two other sort of good performances like that. And like you say, I think they made the draw the evening of the Worsley Cup final. So right from the semi, right after the semi, we knew we got that home fixture. And just the anticipation was huge. Obviously can't speak for the players, but as fans and members, just difficult to talk about much else really.
And again, when we went out there, I just felt there was a good optimism about us. Charlie, you're stumping again, and you've said you'd rather stump first and then after about second. Were you feeling any different? And you don't appear to be a lad that panics or the occasion gets over them. But can you remember anything about that particular day in the first innings?
I remember us being in the changing rooms before the game,
right?
And we were talking about what a decent score would be, and the tracks have been decent at Lowerhouse running up to that game.
Yeah, they had,
And Martin Fultz just said, all we need to, I think similar in the semi, but I remember it more so in the final. Them saying all we need to be is in the game at half time.
Yeah.
So we'll work out when we're out there what that score is going to be. But if it's playing well or if it's not playing well, we'll readjust what we're doing. But what we need to do is we need to be in the game at half time. And that sticks in my mind massively. And obviously other stuff that happened in the first innings that you probably come on to, but. I remember, I think you said or Fultz said walking out onto the ground before the game. Maybe it was as early as 11:30, and there were probably 400 people. Sat there watching. I remember doing our lap of the ground for our warm up and getting cheered as we ran round.
No, it is, isn't it? Day. Yeah, and you're right. About. The different tactics there were then to what happens now and working at the opposition and everything. It was just a case of let's just keep it, just stay in the game. And I do remember the first maybe 4 or 8 overs, Chris. I'll bring you in here around. Sid's obviously not gone well. I can't really remember about that. Fultz, I think you've only bowled maybe 3-4 overs. By the look of it, you only bowled 6.2 out of the whole section. Can you remember what happened there, Blez, early on? I don't think we got off to a poor start, but we're obviously changing our bowlers very early.
Yeah, obviously, we got Mick Ingham out pretty early, didn't we? And and the pro. To my mind, we got out relatively early. Didn't you? Got the pro out relatively early.
Yeah.
And I thought we all thought that's a great start. After 10 overs or so, aren't we doing well? And then it just went into a bit of a lull, and they started. I think we mentioned it before. we seemed to give a boundary away every over, even if we bowled well, and sometimes it was 2 boundaries and over, and it just seemed to be not getting away from us, but it was from having a really positive start, Matt quite rightly decided he was going to try and change it up and try and switch his bowlers. He'd obviously had a conversation with somebody, maybe even just to himself, saying that he wanted not to try and bowl people in long spells. I mean, we had a similar conversation with Pazza this year when he took the captaincy on when Ben had injured himself at Crompton.
Yeah,
and he was of the thought, I don't want people bowling more than 4 or 5 overs, in a spell. 3 overs, 4 overs, that's long enough for me, unless they're looking like getting wickets. And I think Matt had decided on a similar tactic. He'd not mentioned anything to me about that. That just seemed to be his tactic for the day.
To be fair, Blez, all 4 rounds at Cup, he used 7. He used 7 bowlers. And in all 4 rounds, and very rarely did somebody bowl all 10. Obviously 2 or 3 people would do, but you won't have 4 or 5 players bowling 10 overs. And he did seem, whether that was just by accident or as a tactic, Cup matches generally, that he did mix it up quite a bit.
Yeah, and he's quite, what you're saying there, Chris. We didn't discuss on the last podcast, the 2004. It's quite the modern way now, isn't it? What Stephen Parrish said to you. He's bowling less spells, whereas as a bowler, once I got into a rhythm or got into a spell, I'd want to carry on. But you look back there, whether it was by good fortune or by good management, Matt's done a great job there. Can you remember how many overs you did bowl, Peter, in that first spell or not? You only bowled 6.2 in total.
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think it might have only been 4.
Yeah.
I can't really remember too. I think I got a wicket. I got a wicket at the start, but it was only 3 or 4, and like I said, it was I guess the difference between the cup competitions in the league, because as I say, in the league, a lot of the time it was
just keep bowling.
I'd keep bowling from one end, and Bimbo would either he'd either open the bowling, or if he didn't open the bowling, he'd come on after 3 or 4 overs at one end, and then just stay on. So but I mean, I can't. Like I said, the actual specifics of their batting. Like I said, nothing really stood out for me, other than obviously you getting the pro out. And Charlie's great catch.
It was a great catch.
And and then like I said, it was sort of a fairly not a nondescript. You wouldn't say it was nondescript innings, but like I said, nothing really sort of stood out.
It wasn't.
I wonder if that's just because everything ended up being overshadowed by what happened, later on in the second innings.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. We'll bring Joe Martin in a second, but it just, for the listeners, for those who didn't listen to the other podcast in 2004 that we did about 2004 or weren't there, it was a really hot day. It was a very, the start of their innings was hot, blue sky. There was some suggestion of maybe some showers, which we'll come on to. But it was a very warm day, and I agree with you, Peter. It was, that start, we started well, and Matt's changing the bowling. Then they seemed to get away. Then all of a sudden, he didn't out, and it went on from there. Joe Martin, can you remember it in between going around selling your CDs?
Yeah, I can. I also think that we had before Charlie left. we have a really wonderful opportunity to go through the pros wicket. So you taking the pros wicket, because we can discuss it from you being at the end of your mark and Charlie being in his wicket keeping position. I'm all for that. Excellent. So am I. That's fantastic. Can you walk me through what you at the start of your run?
Yeah.
Well, can I just stride?
Okay. Well, can I build it up a little bit better than that? So we just summarise what had happened before.
Yeah, I mean that's as enthusiastic as I can get. So you can probably do a better job.
I was always right throughout my career bowled from the park end. No, I'm not bothered where I bowled from. It wasn't an issue. But because of the way Matt's moved to this modern cricket, we were swapping around. I think I bowled at least 3 spells. So I'd come on. For Sid, I think initially from the park end. Peter would open from the dressing room end, I think, on that game. Matt would come on at the dressing room end. I'd come on the park end. I'd bowl however many overs, then come off and be ready to bowl again. And coming up, obviously, just for the benefit of the listeners, Asif Mushtabal, one of the best players in the world at the time, league cricketer renowned, and had got hundreds and hundreds all round league cricket in really high quality games. Charlie and I had spoken a couple of overs before about his slight weakness, which was the ball that just dips in a little bit, pitches on leg stump, leaves him. It's going to nick the top of off stump, but he's got to play at it. So Charlie's encouraging me that, this is what we need to bowl, but just keep bowling straight, and then bowl one of those cheeky little ones at inducts and nips away. And I did. It worked to a treat. It would have took the off bail, but it just caught the outside of his bat, and I could hear it thud into the centre of Charlie's gloves, under no doubt whatsoever. And he just walked off. He knew that he'd been done. He'd been done by one of the balls of the century within Lancashire League cricket.
And Charlie,
well, all right, Joe.
That was fantastic, Jez. It had a real poetic license. And Chaz, Jez has just walked us through from the start of your run up of Mushtaba's wicket. You were in your crouch position. What can you see? What are you thinking at the time?
I think the first part, I just caught the end of that. The first part of Jez's description was pretty accurate. What is that?
I don't think it's the wrong way round.
Why sat naff?
Why sat naff?
I think it's Welsh, that. Welsh.
If he's not on mute, he's got his signs up wrong way around.
That's the title, Joe. Why sat naff?
Look backwards for me.
Fantasy. I think the first part of that was pretty accurate, Jez. We always used to discuss about what batters were doing. You did have it in your armory to bowl off cutters and leg cutters. You were a fantastic bowler. It probably would have clipped the top of off stump had he not been good enough to nick such a fantastic ball.
Yeah.
However, he nicked it, and I went from like ecstasy, thinking, "What a massive game this is!" Jez has just nicked the prof, and I'm just about to catch him. to seeing it go past my glove, so not seeing it, but I knew it had gone past my gloves, and I didn't feel a thing on either glove. Luckily, I wasn't a keeper, so I had a strange stance. So I still had the top of my legs together, and it smashed between the inside of both of my thighs, which I obviously felt. And then I'm thinking, I've got in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to go two ways. This, and I looked down,
brilliant,
and it's stuck between my thighs, and then I'm fucked for that. And I picked up both my gloves, and you can see it on the video actually.
Yeah.
It went from thinking fantastic, Jez has just nicked the pro off to, oh my God, I've just dropped him.
Just dropped the
I might get another chance. It's amazing how many things go through your mind in a situation like that. Because I'm thinking, he's just nicked him off, I'm going to catch him. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've just dropped him. To we might get him out for less than 100. So I might get another chance, and then thinking, oh my God, it's stuck between my legs.
And do you know what? I think if anybody gets a chance to watch the video on the website of the World Cup final, I think you can see all those different states that Charlie went through in that really short clip. That was tremendous. Thank you.
It was. No, it was. It was one of them moments. I don't think we realised how important it was at the time, and who knows what would have happened. But again, all credit, to Matt continuing this short spells, and then the inspiration of bringing Ben on, which we've done with Ben. We spoke through with Ben and managing to get his hand on a straight drive, and Barry Knowles has run out. When we've gone in the dressing room there, lads, the lads who've played, in fact, Dooch, I'll ask you this question. 2-3-1, it always seemed a lot more than that when you look at how well we chased it. We chased 300 and 320 in the last innings in the round before. But this one,
it's the opposition, Jez.
Yeah.
I mean, Aslandon were a really, really good side, weren't they? I mean, Enfield, with all respect, they weren't in Aslandon's league, were they? And Aslandon actually did win the league that year. And if you look at the side, Dearden, Barry Knowles, Ingham, John Simpson, they had a really strong side.
Yeah.
So I think that probably skews.
You're right. Yeah, and there's some good bowlers there with Blomley, and Howard have played a lot of cricket. But I just look at he'd always get through his 10 overs cheaply. So again, but I think I was quite confident and quite cool about it all. But then we got off to that poor start for some reason, and that, if I remember rightly, it's getting quite humid at this stage. I'm not suggesting the ball's hooping around everywhere, but it is getting a bit humid. Peter, you're going out to bat at 18 for 2. I don't think we'd had a lot of overs, maybe 4 or 5 overs. Can you remember your thoughts around how you were going to play and how that went? Were you getting any stick? Were they bowling well? What happened there when you went in?
Yeah, I think from memory, I looked back at the scores the other day just to remind myself that it seemed like in that run chase later on, it seemed like they scored more than 235.
I agree. Yeah,
that's what it felt like. It felt like it was a really big score, and I think that's now looking back in hindsight at the scores, it's because we were 2 for 15 or whatever we were inside 3 or 4 overs. So yeah, but I mean, again, it was a little bit similar to the semi-final. It was in that sort of situation, I guess. I was thinking, well, 235. If we bat the overs, then you should chase 235 on a good wicket. Yeah. It was one of those ones where I think, from my point of view, when I got out, I mean, I've been really disappointed, obviously, to have got a start. I think that's probably whether it's league cricket or whether any form of cricket, if you're a top order batsman and you get yourself in on a good wicket, then that's when you're the most disappointed, when you get out. I think I got 20 odd and was sort of got myself in and got out at a bad time, really.
Yeah. Can you remember before Blez came in and you were still there? Did the atmosphere and the weather conditions start to make a difference? I can't remember at that stage.
I think it got a bit darker. I mean, like I said, I do remember it was really sticky and hot. One of those sort of days. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it got a little bit cloudy, but obviously certainly not as dark as it got. Later on, when the sun went down.
When the sun went down, that's right. I'm just wondering, it's in any part of the world, when it gets so humid, it does start hooping around a bit. And they've got Dearden, who's a great bowler, and Blomley's no mug. So Peter's in with you, Chris. You've gone in at 4. We're 18. The pair of you've put 50 on. How were you feeling then, Chris? And what's your thoughts when Peter got out? I know you're not a panicker, and it must have concerned you. But were you any doubts at that stage, or were you comfortable?
Obviously, you're disappointed when your pro goes, and it'd have been great if Fulton sort of would have been there for another 20 overs, because I think he would have seen it off. And we'd have made a. It wouldn't have been as good a story, though, Blez, would it? No,
that's right. Yeah.
You probably wouldn't be doing this podcast now if that's what it is. Probably retired with Jez.
Getting slagged off.
If only.
If only.
Send more house to save the house.